Hello everybody, Angel Arts is here, and today I have a very special guest with me, DawnforgedCast. He is a gentleman that I personally have grown to respect very much over the last couple of years. I ran into his channel actually while I was looking for possible voice actors to voice act my Earthbound VA Let's Play, and the more I was checking out his channel, the more I just ended up being a huge fan of his. So having him here is definitely been a very something that I definitely appreciate a lot. He's been very supportive of me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys should be very appreciative and supportive of a lot of the stuff that he does. DawnforgedCast, or Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us briefly about yourself, however much you want to say, and talk about your channel as much as you like?
Sure. Howdy, Ark. Thanks for having me on here. You approached me for the Earthbound Let's Play, and then I thought, I hadn't come across your channel before that, and I thought, this guy's doing a voice-acted Earthbound, one of my favorite games from Super Nintendo. There's got to be something I want to pay attention to here. And then finding the other Let's Plays, I was always apprehensive about Let's Plays. We'll talk about more of that later, but definitely been following your channel as well. On DawnforgedCast, we do a lot of tabletop role-playing and read-alouds, kind of a dynamic change there. A lot of things related to role-playing games and how to get into character, how to run a game, the different rules, systems, those sorts of things. I integrate my personal life, in which I'm a school teacher, and my home life, which is I'm kind of a gamer, and try and sort of do an educational gaming focus, where we'll answer a lot of player questions, delve into all the different facets of what tabletop gaming is, how can I use it as not just for fun, how can I maximize my fun, certainly, but how can it be used for other means? And in the school, I've been using it, and will be using it again at the summer. I'm doing for summer school an adventure through Middle-earth, and so we'll go, do all those sorts of things for the elementary students. And there's been a lot of ways that role-playing games can really help strengthen your social skills, your comprehension, how quickly you speak, being able to think critically about things. And I'd like to share that with more people. Thankfully, the channel is doing very well. It's growing, and you can find some other resources over here on this side for that sort of thing. But I definitely have a big passion for gaming and for improving life through gaming. And I think we both share a similar point of view on that.
Great. So just so you guys are aware, the purpose of today's video, I had created a contest of sorts, a Let's Talk contest, something that I've started getting very interested and passionate about during my second year LP anniversary. And I asked people to submit ideas of specific topics related to video games that they thought we could discuss and record ourselves discussing in a podcast format. And Andrew is one of the winners, and it's a topic that I definitely am very excited to share, because it deals with the interest of mine that unfortunately I haven't really had the opportunity to really get much into due to the normal content of my channel. So Andrew, I'll just go ahead and let you present what you proposed and why you selected it and why you personally are passionate about this topic.
Absolutely. Yes, I've come onto Angel Arts to stir up the pot and get you to talk about things we know your viewers are interested in, and that's tabletop gaming. Now, I know that you've said a couple things on your channel here and there. Very specifically, you made what would I be like if I was a D&D? You listed your stats. You gave yourself 47 charisma, something like that. Real fitting sort of thing for the character. And we haven't seen much more than there. Now, I have a big passion for gaming. I think it's the most free way of telling a story, of being a part of a story, and of really experiencing different worlds and different points of view. That, to me, I look forward to more than anything else is sitting down together with my friends and delving into the human experience, which is every week. It may be dice rolling, maybe laugh excessively about the way this goblin talks or that sort of thing, but what we're doing is as ancient as sitting around a campfire telling stories that we use. This setting or that setting, it's not so important. So I'm going to start off with a question for you.
All right,
and this
let's
do
do it.
Broad. What is your tabletop gaming experience? And I'll focus it as we go along. Tell us.
Okay.
Where did it start?
So, growing up as a kid, I had heard about Dungeons and Dragons when I was really little. Like, this is back when I was in elementary school, and maybe a little bit in middle school. And it wasn't something that I immediately got into. I think part of it was because I was in a Catholic school, and I think there was a little bit of a stigma during that time about Dungeons and Dragons, unfortunately. And so it wasn't something that I, at the time, had really given that much thought towards. However, when I got older and got into college, I moved into an apartment with 5 other people, 2 of which were avid D&D players, and those 2 in the apartment actually introduced it to the other 4. So we actually, it was very convenient, we actually started a campaign, one of my roommates, and, you know, we met every single week, and because we all lived together, you know, it was something that we were very easily able to add into our schedule, especially since all 6 of us were engineers. And, you know, our schedules are pretty busy as it is, but being able to have the opportunity to bounce off, like, character creation ideas with each other, you know, having the DM right there if I just randomly needed a question answered. This was D&D 3.0, by the way. And I just ended up falling in love with the system. It was a great time. My classically, in any, I guess, fantasy setting, my class of choice has always been cleric or a healer type. The whole angel arts theme, the whole angel theme kind of fits into that.
What guess that? Yeah.
So you could have, yeah. And as people who've watched me with, you know, other Let's Plays of video games like Dragon Age, I tend to like playing more of the magic caster healer types if I can. So that's how my D&D started. Prior to that, though, I was already big into video RPGs. So I already knew that I kind of liked that genre, and it was really interesting to be able to play in a medium that was similar to the video game, but without the constraints that you naturally have with a video game, since a dungeon master or a GM is actually able to interact more closely with the players and actually tailor every single moment based on the actions of the players, is something that was really new to me. The big epiphany, though, that I ended up having with pen and paper game is that for my first DM, again with my college friends, they were more of the, you know, bust down the door, you know, combat kind of players or dungeon masters. And so my first introduction for D&D was that it's pretty much, you know, a combat simulator, not so much emphasis on story. And then the second campaign that I joined, I had a DM that was completely different. That's what I love about the whole system in general, is that you can have dungeon masters with completely different styles. And his was far more story heavy, and the situations that he placed us in were just so unique and thought-provoking, and he challenged us to really think closely about who our characters were, how we developed our relationships with each other, and it just really opened my eyes into the art of storytelling within pen and paper games, to the point that I'm actually was a very big storyteller growing up as a kid. I loved writing and creative writing, and therefore I thought I would try to throw my hat into the arena and actually DM a campaign. And so the very first one that I did actually lasted for 1.5 or 2 years. We met every week for about 4 hours at a time, and it was an amazing experience. And since then, I ended up pretty much mostly DMing for my friends more often than playing. And I still miss playing. I think lately I've started to become a player more because it gets to the point where once you become a DM, pretty much everybody else wants you to stay being a DM because because it's a lot of work, as you would know. So yeah, I mean that was my initial experiences with pen and paper gaming from the beginning.
What do you find yourself doing today, given that we all experimented with, late night Dungeons and Dragons in college.
Yes.
But as life went on and we left that sort of isolated, we would all meticulously plan our schedules in school. So we'd have all our classes on Tuesday and Thursday, and then you'd have 4-day weekends all the time, and we'd game for 6 hours late into the night or all day sessions. And then you get out of college and you're away from that group of friends. You have to form a new group. You have to balance out work and relationships and those sorts of things.
Right.
What are you playing today? Where's Hark in the tabletop gaming world today?
So, right now I'm actually playing a pen and paper system that my roommate, again, very convenient, my roommate is in the process of actually trying to create and publish. So it's got a very similar feel to D&D. I don't know what he's calling it, but it's a little flexible. There are less classes, but there's a little bit of flexibility as far as what kind of skills and spells you can take and things of that nature. I'm the kind of player who always tries to think out of the box. I never want to be a cookie cutter. I want to be a really interesting character that I really feel like I can really tell a good story with. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to challenge myself by doing things like an orc bard. I think an orc trying to be a bard, and a pretty darn good bard, would be a lot of fun. Or a dwarf who is not necessarily known to be very agile, a dwarf ninja. Things like that nature. They may not be statistically the most combat, they might not be the best in combat statistically, but again, like, I'm less concerned about how effective I am in combat, but as long as I can have some sort of story behind it. And even then, I think it's a good challenge too, because obviously I want to try to be a formidable player in combat as much as possible. So the current character that I'm playing is, I actually am a noodle delivery boy. I think my motto is, what was that again? I think it was like, the kit and caboodle of everything noodle, sir! He's a very hyper character. And even when I make these kind of characters, I take them very seriously too. Like, I don't just play them as a joke. Like, I actually think very long and hard about what their motivations are. So this guy is a chronomancer. So he manipulates time. And as a delivery boy, that's very useful. And the whole story behind him is he excelled in the ranks of noodle delivery boys, and his boss favors him a lot. But he has a secret. There's a secret behind how he makes all of his deliveries on time. So he has a rival, of course he does, in the office who, really doesn't particularly care for my character at all. He knows there's something about my character that's a little off, and the rival's goal is to try to expose me for whatever it is that I'm up to during my deliveries, and because he wants to be like employee of the month, essentially. So my character, a lot of the things that I used in designing him was specifically to get things that helped him with his job, with his career, and then I went from there, and he ended up being my GM's favorite character, just because there was a lot about him and a lot of depth about him. And I think the one that I did before that was there was a 4.0 game that I just did recently, who was a ventriloquist. He was a cross-class bard artificer named Quinn, and her like ventriloquist dummy was Manny. So they're like mannequin. Like, I'm very big with puns when it comes to my characters. And the whole thing was, Quinn never spoke. Manny was always the one that seemed to be in control, which actually was fitting, because the deep dark secret is my character is actually the mannequin, not the actual puppeteer. Things like that. So yeah, I try my best to throw something out there that is very unique and really out of the box, just because I think that it just makes it a lot more fun, and it helps people, I think, roleplay a little bit easier when we interact with each other.
What are some other elements of your current group? I'm picturing with this character, a lot of things it sounds like it's just you and your DM to be able to have so much of the story focused on you and your noodle deliveries. Are there other players in the game, and how's your character interact with them, and how does that overall sort of thing mesh when there's so much writing on your deliveries?
There really isn't that much writing on my deliveries. I think that the other characters, I probably went overboard with my background than some of the other characters, so I think my DM just ended up having a lot more to play with. And I think the big challenge was the rest of the players' motivations are more on, gaining loot, because there's a thief and there's a warrior who just kind of wants to kill things, and then there's, I forgot this other guy, but he's another mage, and we all call him Doc Brown, because as soon as he described himself with the white hair, and immediately we were like, Marty, you've got to come with me back to the future. Yeah, so I think my character, the challenge for my DM was trying to assimilate him with the group, because they all were given this quest, like some sort of meteor fell down from the sky, and the group sort of formed a guild, and they had to go and make a journey to this meteor and just investigate it. And all these other guilds are also forming too, and I think somebody promised like an X amount of gold for the first guild that makes it to the meteor and comes back with what information that they have. And so while everybody else was sort of getting established in the guild, my character was sort of on his own, because he already had an established career doing all these deliveries. And then it just so happened that he ended up being assigned to this guild, sort of as, I guess, the person who'd be providing the food. I'm basically their caterer, I guess. I just happen to be the one that helps get them fed. But in addition to that, I'm supposed to be making a delivery on the way to the meteor that happens to be in the path, I guess. And so the thing, though, that was really surprising about my character is that I ended up inadvertently becoming the moral compass of the group, which I kind of didn't want to, because I normally play the moral character person, and I kind of wanted to be more of the neutral / selfishy kind of person. But it seemed like several of the other characters already fit that bill, to the point where it started to get it started to jeopardize the group a little bit. Like, we were getting ourselves into some very sticky situations that I think that in order to balance that, there needed to be some sort of voice of reason. So I ended up having to So in mid-game, I had to sort of rewire my character towards the makeup and the dynamic of the group, so that we wouldn't all die. And I think that was something that really surprised me, is having to adapt, I guess, my character so that it actually fit well with what was going on with the rest of the group. So.
I've been in that exact same situation. And it's kind of frustrating because you sort of get... I was a character, and the DM was fairly new, and it turned out I wanted to play a selfish, more internally motivated character, and then the rest of the party were even more selfish and jerky, and so it ended up just me having a sympathy as a person to the DM and their sort of frustration and difficulty dealing with these totally ridiculous, excessively ridiculous characters, that you sort of feel that responsibility to help the group and to help the DM facilitate. And it kind of falls on the shoulders of these sorts of people who end up being the DM or see the game as a whole. Do you ever find yourself really frustrated with the way the game plays out, the way that you have to interact with these other players who just seemingly don't share the same philosophy and approach to the game as you do?
Yeah, and it's so different depending on which side of the fence you're on, as in if you are the DM versus if you're a player. Because with the DM, with the Dungeon Master, you have a little bit more control over things. Like from the get-go, you have the ability to say, all right, since this is my first time DMing, no evil characters, and whatever backgrounds. Like one of the things I did when I first started DMing is I said no evil characters, because it's harder for me to A, get you guys to get along, but B, also to keep all the characters engaged and motivated towards a specific goal. If everyone has like very deviant interests in terms of what the actual main quest is about. I think as a DM, I try to push actually sitting down prior to gaming and talking to the players and say, what is it that you want out of this campaign? What are you looking for? What are the things that I give them sort of a questionnaire that talks about what their characters' motivations are, what your character's desires are, what your characters would like to accomplish during an adventure in general. In addition to what are the player's expectations, what does the player want to see happen to their character, and things like that. And then if I start seeing some issues like my character, wants to rape every woman that he sees, and things like that, then we start talking a little bit. And I think that the big thing as a DM is you have to be able to tell your players that it's a team effort. Like, it's not just the Dungeon Master telling the story, it's everybody around the table telling the story. And the decisions that you make as players, you have to make sure that it's done in such a way that's respectful to everybody at the table, and also to make sure that everyone is having fun. And if you're going to, you don't want to do anything that will take away from that fun. I guess what I'm trying to say is that as long as the DM, I think, is able to communicate to the players, I want to make sure that it's okay for your characters to have conflict, but not to the point where you're always at each other's throats that you end up wanting to kill each other, / you get distracted and spend 50% of the campaign just fighting, because that's not fun for anybody. As a player, it's difficult, and again, it's dependent on the DM and how much the DM keeps the lines of communication open, and how really involved the DM is in the storytelling process with the players. And I think that for me, because I've been a DM, I'm more comfortable with taking the initiative, and if there is problems going on, around the table to actually approach the dungeon master, because some people I think are really shy when it comes to that kind of stuff. And maybe I don't have an issue, but somebody else in the table does. And so I try to do the best that I can to make the experience as fun for everybody. So, I don't know if that answered your question.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I can give specific examples, but I think that would take a long time. So,
and we could certainly wax on for a long time about this character's story and this great moment in the game. And you sort of end up with an arsenal of amazing experiences. Leaving these things, and they feel much more significant, perhaps, than other media that we encounter. There's another question there. I was wondering, before I ask about that, and we talk about the bridge between tabletop gaming and video gaming, and why we don't see tabletop gaming on your channel, if we would be able to have an encounter with your noodle delivery boy and a character of mine, and so we might see how you role play this character out.
Sure. Are you saying right now, or it's some other video?
Let's do it now.
Sure.
Okay. What's your character's name again?
His name is Stanley. Stanley Whift, because his initials are S, and then Swift. Because he's fast. But it's Stanley. I like the name Stanley. So. Well,
I've grown to like the name Stanley too after recent experiences. Let's say we'll set it pretty simply. We're waiting in line. Your character and my character are waiting in line to get into the city, and you've got delivery to do it. He's got something else. You see a man. He towers. I don't know how tall your character is, but my character is about 6.5 feet tall, long red hair, beat up, but significantly sturdy armor, and a huge hammer on his back.
Okay.
He turns and looks down at you. What are you waiting in line for?
Before I answer, let me ask some questions.
Sure.
So, you said I'm in the middle of a delivery currently?
Yeah, I just picture us, we're at a big city gate, and there's a huge crowd of people trying to get in. Guards are being slow, and now we're just sort of forced to talk with each other, standing next to each other in line.
Gotcha. All right. So your question was, what are you doing here? Or what was your...
Busy day, huh? What are you doing here?
Oh, yes. Very busy day. Busy. Always very busy. Oh, sorry. I sort of get ahead of myself sometimes. It happens all the time. Oh, my name is Stanley. Stanley Whift of Fong Noodle. You might have heard of them. The kit and caboodle of everything noodle, sir.
I have not heard of Noodle, but I am Alexi. It's good to meet you. Looks like we'll be standing next to each other for some time. Tell me, what is this Noodle thing?
Oh, well, I suppose I can show you a menu. He pulls out this little pamphlet, and it's got a lot of very colorful images of various dishes that you can order from. Very reasonably priced. And if you order something from me now, I can put it in and might even be able to get you a free dessert.
Is this food?
Oh, yes. What's your pleasure? Do you like meat? Do you like vegetables? Do you like cheese? Everybody loves cheese.
Meat is good. This is your job?
Yes, this is my job. I love it. It's great. What exactly do you do?
I am... How do you put it? Skull crusher, yes? For my goddess, she commands me to seek out the unrighteous and crush skulls for the society, as it were.
Wow. So do you get paid per skull or per day?
See, I do not get paid, and in fact, I have to admit, perhaps you are not the right person to talk about this with, but I am having conundrum, I think is the word, about the skull crushing. Have you ever killed someone?
Killed someone? Who, me? No, not really. Fortunately, I have never had to. Why do you ask?
I killed my 242nd man yesterday, and...
Wow.
It's just, something is weighing on me. My goddess, she says, we must fight for goodness and rightness, but it feels somewhat wrong. I think I am ridding the world of evil, but in all of these men, they have certainly been not good. But do you think Yomade wishes her followers to kill? What do you think about life and death?
Oh, jeez. Honestly, I haven't really given it much thought, but now that you mention it, I mean, I guess it really depends on the why. I mean, what exactly do you kill for? Are you trying to kill because somebody tells you to kill someone? Are you trying to kill because you're trying to get something out of it yourself personally?
I do not like it. I am big and I'm strong and hitting things feels good, but I do it because they are evil. I know it. I sense it, if you know. And Yomade commands, we must stop these people.
Oh, so you're like a guard, right?
I have no town to guard, but yes. But it is not evil of law. It is evil of soul, where they wish to hurt others. These guards here, they're just doing job. They do not discern good from bad, only whether a person is doing what the law says or not. I do not see it this way.
Huh. So you're saying that if you just walk around the street and you sense someone evil, you go over there and collect a skull? Crush a skull?
It is not... At first, that is how I thought. He's very clear. He is clearly a bad person, and society has not given justice, so I must do this. But now I wish, perhaps, if I might give them a chance to repent. Do you think people can change?
Ah, jeez. I'd like to think so. I mean, I guess if you're feeling, you seem to be really bothered by this. You seem to feel really guilty about 200, 204, 210,
242.
242. Did you ever know any of these people's names?
Some of them, it was given to me on contract or command by Pathfinder leader to go defeat this person or bring this person to justice, and so I did not know many beyond the fact that they were told they were wrong and they must be defeated.
Well, I think that me personally, I of course don't really have the capability to just go up to somebody and just, you know, give them that hard of a time. But if I did, I don't know. I think I would feel bad as well because I'm just not the kind of person who would want to judge whether someone should live or die. That's not really a job that would be for me. But I think but I think that the fact that you're actually questioning it is a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing. I think that you probably should, you know, really take in consideration why you're doing what you're doing. What exactly is your motivation? Is it making you happy? Because if it's not making you happy, maybe you should consider other work. Take me, for instance. You know, I started up this job because I'm trying to save up money for school. I want to go into culinary school. But
What is
of course,
culinary?
oh, it's a school that teaches you how to cook. Food. You know, food.
Noodles? Do you wish to make noodles?
Possibly, but probably would like to expand my horizons more, which is why I'd like to go to school. And I started taking this job and various other jobs, odd jobs. But then I realized I kind of like what I'm doing. I'm really happy. I bring people joy. It's really fulfilling. And I think at the end of the day, you probably have to find something happy and fulfilling for yourself. It may be what you're doing right now. it may not be. But if you're very, very concerned about your goddess, have you tried seeking her for advice or guidance? Does everyone who serve your goddess serve in the exact same way? Do they all serve by bashing heads, or are there people who serve your goddess that does other things? Maybe other different jobs? Because, I mean, my job, we've got delivery boys, we've got chefs, we got the people that, take the orders. Everybody has their own place in one company. You just have to find out what place you belong in. It might be where you are now, it might be somewhere else.
It is a lot to think on. You say happiness, and I do not think I am happy. But I do not know that I am supposed to be. I am big and strong. It is not my choosing that I was big and strong. I see evil clearly, as if the person becomes shrouded in sparkles, aura. They shine differently. I cannot help but see them this way. It is clear then to me, my goddess has commanded that this is my task. And while I may not be happy myself, the fact that I slew, for example, great evil, terrorized village, I crushed it to pulp, whole village is happy now. I am not happy, but I make world better place because bad things are not there. Is it everyone should be happy? Or must there be people to do these things?
It's a good question. Well, you said so yourself. You were born big and strong. You didn't choose to be big and strong. But what you can choose is what you do with your skills, your talents. That you can choose. And I guess you just have to decide where to focus your big, strongliness. What direction you would like that to take. And, it's great if you're able to make villages happy, but I would like to think that there's a way that you can make yourself happy and still make other people happy and make your goddess happy too.
Well, I have made one decision. The one with the meat and the noodles. That looks good.
Noodles good. All right. Well, I will try to put this order in, and hopefully they'll hurry up and let us inside so I can actually, acquire it for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to this. It is not often strangers take time to understand you or to listen.
Yes. People tell me the same thing.
If you get in trouble in city while I'm here, you just call out for Alexei and I'll straighten things out for you.
Alexei? Amazing. Yes. Great. I made a friend. I don't have very many, so thank you.
Yes. Thank you as well. And scene.
That was fun.
Isn't it?
Thank you for that, Andrew. That was a lot of
course,
fun. It was a good exercise.
Got to know your character a little better. And that to me is like I'd totally allow that sort of thing in my game to go on for an hour. No dice rolling at all. Just let's get into the characters and enjoy. Surely our characters may not reflect us 100%, but they might reflect something we're thinking about.
Right.
About maybe in life we just had to pay a traffic ticket and we're thinking, oh, that sucks. I have to pay this ticket. And you start thinking about law. Is it just that people can't have freedom? And then you come in here and your character can experiment with that sort of thing.
Yeah. And it's really nice that it's really great for the character to be forced into these situations where you have to really think deeply as to how they see certain things, like what exactly is their moral code, and what are the limits to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great challenge because there definitely during that session there's definitely times where I had to really think deeply because it was something that I just hadn't thought about.
Mm-hmm.
So
And you have to try and think not as Hark, but as Stanley, the Noodle Boy.
yes.
Is there a right answer? 'Cause in my Crucible, which is a show I've done interviewing people for a summer game, they're posed a situation in which will they use an artifact to give them great power, or will they return it to the king? A lot of the
Yeah.
answers have been, well, of course I return it to the king, and sometimes it fits with their character, and sometimes it just sounds like they're answering what should a good person do when their character's
Right.
not that, and you really have to play around with that difference and separate it, or just play in alignment a character like yourself. I mean, that's easier.
And I think that lends itself very well with video games that allow you to create a character and put you in moral situations like the BioWare games and Telltale's games, because you do have to come to a decision as to how are you going to roleplay this character. Are you planning on roleplaying this character closely with yourself or as a completely unique entity? And I don't think that there's necessarily a right or wrong way, because I don't want to tell people, oh, you should make sure that your character is completely different from you, or I think that you have the liberty to be able to play to have any percentage of yourself, however much of yourself you want to put into the character.
Well, how do you find that connection? What probably for most of us, video gaming came first, and we can think back to NES and playing Zelda there, or Super Nintendo, and Secret of Mana was my first game on that, and going from there. But once you sort of have a taste of the freedom, the absolute freedom, there's no dialogue trees, even in Mass Effect or Dragon Age, in which you do have choices. You still have, you could choose 3 options, and you're like, I wouldn't choose any of those for my character. But you're still playing. I still play games, and so where's that? How do you end up playing games and doing these Let's Plays authentically when you know as well as you can, or do you just say, well, this is good, but I'll just go play D&D and get my moral choices and my character development out there, and then play games that are more strategy and reflexes and those sorts of things? Can you still get the fulfillment out of 3 choices?
Yes, I think you can, because I think that as gamers who do play both, we get different things from different medias. I think that's why when you're comparing movies and books, or even books that were adapted from movies, or movies are adapted from books, I like reading books because I'm able to not only get deeper into a story than a movie can within the restraints of a movie, but I can let my own imagination create these characters and create these worlds for myself, and I don't have to be limited to whatever Hollywood dictates these characters should look like, or these instances what the experience should be like. Whereas movies, it's just you get something else out of it, because even though somebody else is essentially saying these are what the characters look like and this is what the world looks like, you can just sit back and just allow the story to just come to you, and it's a little bit less of an active experience as a movie watcher, but sometimes people prefer that. People prefer to just watch a movie instead of reading a book and experience a book that way. Where with video games versus D&D, with D&D obviously you get the flexibility, like you were saying, where you can say whatever you want, and the dungeon master has to react in such a way But I think with video games, some of the things that you get is that they have a specific design in place. They have a very specific story, and they might give you some decisions to make that might vary, that might add variation to your story, but it's still essentially your story. With Telltale games, for example, one of the things that I liked in, for example, The Wolf Among Us or The Walking Dead is they provide you with a silence. Silence is a reasonable response to a question, and virtually every single dialogue choice includes silence, and I normally pick that as the I don't like the other three choices, so because I don't like the other three choices, I'm just going to pick the silent one instead, which I would love for role-playing games to make more liberal use of, because I think, you know, it's with Mass Effect and with Dragon Age, it can get really annoying when you're limited between the paragon or good response versus
pretty polarized.
It's pretty polarized, and it's really tough to create a character in between, and sometimes you're penalized if you aren't in one, you know, if you're not in one extreme versus the other. You lose out on benefits, for example, if you're not 100% angelic or 100% selfish or whatever. So, you know, there's pros and cons to both media, and I think that it's good to be able to have a diverse set of media that you can get different things from.
I found that I'm able to take a lot of neat ideas or concepts or characters or tropes or different things from games, from video games, and put them into my tabletop gaming. What do you see? Do you have any of those experiences going from this to this?
Oh yes. So the first couple of campaigns that I ran as a DM, I'm sure you've preached this before, is a good tip for being a good DM is knowing your audience, knowing who your players are, what their interests are, even outside of D&D. And I knew that the group that I was DMing for were all avid video gamers. So there was this one session that was very in your face what I was trying to do, and they appreciated thoroughly. They had to go, it was like 3.5 edition of D&D, and there is a point where they had to jump into the plane of dreams, and they were warned that once you go into the plane of dreams, you got to be careful because the rules there are completely different from the rules in real life. And so when their characters first went into their dream, what I started describing to them was that every single time one of the characters spoke, a text box would appear and it would type out everything that they said and also everything that they thought. Whenever the party stopped talking and started traveling, they would all merge into one character, and that character controlled where they were moving, and then all of a sudden, after taking a few steps, the entire world around them would start to swirl, and then they would, get into this, fighting stance, and they're like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, there's like this box that appears above them that says fight, magic, item, and they'll be like, what if I think about fight? And then it did whatever they did, or the spell. And then, I threw in a lot of things that specifically made fun of video games. Like when they went into a town, when they hit a creature, I was like, you see a big 50 pop up, which is interesting because, sometimes when video games, they provide you with that information that the D&D players might not necessarily know. Like if there was resistance, they would actually see this is how much damage you actually did to the character, and they're like, oh, so this character is resisting this much. But if they went into a town, I would describe it. townspeople are acting really odd. They're all just walking
Standing.
back and forth in a line, and whenever you talk to them, they always say the exact same thing. Like no matter what question you ask them, they always respond to the exact same thing. And so I did that, and again, my players loved it. Like they were just, it was just a big, and I could do that with the Plane of Dreams without making it, making it seem like I'm destroying their D&D experience, because how dare I try to think that out of the box. But yeah, that's more of a more literal sense of applying video games into my campaigns. But in terms of other I guess a little more subtle, I'm trying to think. I mean, I borrow a lot of things from movies. There was sort of like what I call the Willy Wonka episode, where this is for Halloween, where they ended up in some sort of I think all the children like disappeared in the middle of the night. Like there were always all these disappearances, and they ended up into this factory, and all of the monsters were reflavored. Like I think there was like a rock candy golem, and there was a gelatinous cube made of chocolate and things like that. And all the traps would like spring out, instead of spikes, it would be like sharpened candy corn or something like that. So that was like the Willy Wonka thing. But in terms of video games, there were some things. I mean, there were definitely some elements from the Final Fantasies that I borrowed, like the Chrono Trigger. Actually, Chrono Trigger is a big thing. Is I tend to do a lot of homebrew things for my characters, and one of the things that I introduced to them when they reached a specific level is I introduced the Chrono Trigger double techniques.
Right.
So that there was a system where if you held your action and another person with you also held an action, so that they did some action simultaneously, it created this double technique effect that was more powerful. And that was something that they really liked. There was a summoning. I think I added some sort of summoning ability that, again, of course, is reminiscent of Final Fantasy. So things like that I borrowed from. But yeah.
Why don't we see you recording your tabletop gaming sessions? We see a lot of video games. So, having just started Let's Playing myself, just with the Shadowrun game, you just turn on Fraps and hit your button for record, and then it's going, and it's a lot more difficult to set up. But is there anything other than the difficulty that is preventing or making it so you don't share more of the role-playing side in the sessions?
That's a very good question. It's definitely something that I've always wanted to try, just recording, if not a in-person D&D session, but maybe something through Skype or through Google Hangout. That's something I definitely wanted to do. I would have loved to have joined your Crucible of Champions, but timing-wise, I've just been very busy lately, and I just didn't think I'd be able to commit. I think the biggest thing that's keeping me is just time, really, just being able to commit to yet another project on top of the other Let's Plays that I'm doing. Not to say that I won't ever do it. I guess if there's enough people out there who say, yeah, we would love to see you like record a D&D or any sort of pen and paper game, then I can consider it, or maybe even host one myself, like you're doing for your channel. But there's really time is the only thing. If I didn't have to work and put food on the table and a roof over my head, then maybe I'd have more time
on your shelves.
Yeah, have more Pikachu. Then maybe I'd be able to take it a little bit more seriously. I think that would be something that would definitely add something different to my channel if I were to be able to do that.
I've noticed the problem, and this will end in another question.
Okay.
Sometimes I have no issues with it because we kind of live in front of the camera now. But when other players who don't do YouTube and things like that get put in front of the camera, they sort of get stage fright and they can't play normally.
Yeah.
I find a similar thing happening with Let's Plays, sort of the opposite, where if I'm playing a game and my camera's not on, I feel sort of guilty of, if I could record it and people like watching me play, why am I not recording everything?
Right.
And then the flip side of it is, I want to go play another mission in Shadowrun, but I can't progress in the story because I'm Let's Playing it and I'm recording everything. So,
right.
How do you Let's Play? I'm a new place I'm branching into it. Do you ever Let's Play or get that conflict between I should be recording this, or just, all right, screw it, I played for 4 hours and the Let's Play continues 4 hours later. Sorry, folks, I just really wanted to play and not talk. And
are you saying, is the question when I'm playing a game, if I stop recording and then just continue playing the game and then start recording at some arbitrary point? Or are you saying if there are games that I specifically don't record at all, that I don't Let's Play at all, I just play it on my own, versus the games that I do actually record?
Somewhere in the middle of that. I'll rephrase. Do you ever feel the conflict between wanting to play a game but not record it after you've already started the recording of it? And you ever find, like, how do you handle that? Like, the desire to just, I want to keep playing and playing and playing, but my hard drive's filling up, or I don't want to talk anymore.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yes, because making a Let's Play is a lot of work, and it does add more time and slows your gameplay down. Mm-hmm. Because before I was doing Let's Plays, I can just play for hours and hours and hours without having to worry about filling up a hard drive. All of a sudden, when I started doing Mass Effect as my first Let's Play, which is not a short game whatsoever, I started noticing that I had to force more breaks than I normally would for a specific game. So I think that I'm very particular about which games I do end up Let's Playing in the first place. Like, it has to be a game that I feel that I would be able to contribute enough insight or commentary towards, and if I don't feel that I can, especially if there's tons of other Let's Players out there who are also covering the game, there's no need for me to throw it in if I don't think that I'd be able to make a decent enough contribution. That was one of the reasons why there are a lot of really popular games that a lot of my viewers have been asking me to play. Skyrim, for example, is a big one that my viewers really wanted to play. But I explained that Skyrim's just the kind of game that I don't think that I do very well commentating on. And that's one of the reasons why I refuse to do it. Mm-hmm. It's really, I guess Skyrim for me is more of a game that I enjoy playing for myself, without having to feel the pressure of, I gotta put in something entertaining during this particular scene. And so, I guess I try to be very honest with myself about that, because I never want to just Let's Play a game because it's popular, or because all my viewers really want me to play it, because I have to be able to thoroughly enjoy not only playing it but recording it. Mm-hmm. So as far as games that I do want to record, but at times wish that I wasn't recording, or the opposite of that. It's there. I guess the biggest thing that I do when I am recording a game and I don't really feel like recording myself, it's simple. I just don't record that day. I wait. I wait until I am in the mood to play a game, because it just all goes back to you do it because it's fun, not because you have to or because you're on some sort of schedule. Normally what I end up doing is I end up playing a different game, or even Let's Play a different game, which is why a lot of my Let's Plays sort of are overlapping a little bit so that I have a little bit more diversity. Because viewers are also diverse too. Like not every one of my viewers wants to watch The Sims. Not all of my viewers wants to watch a gay Let's Play. So I think that diversity not only helps me, but also helps the viewers of the content, so that different people can get different things at different times, and it helps keep things fresh for me, so that when I finally do go back to a game that I might have put off to the side a little bit, it'll help enhance the commentary and the insight. So
Is this part of the reason why you don't monetize your videos? So I see a lot of benefits to doing that. You get, just if it goes all back into the business, you get a better microphone, you get a bigger hard drive, you're able to give away games, buy new games that people recommend to you. That's how I use my monetization for that. Do you feel like you feel with too much pressure? Well, I get paid for all the videos, so I have to keep putting out videos, sort of thing, more than the 5 seconds they have to wait. Why have you chosen not to do that?
Yeah, it's a personal choice. I have nothing against anyone who does monetize their videos. I mean, obviously lots of people do it, and many Let's Players out there I know, that is their main form of income, is Let's Playing. So I definitely don't. I'm not knocking that at all. I think a lot of it is just, for me personally, I like the principle of this is a hobby of mine. This is not a job. It would be great if I was making money off of a hobby, and you would think, you can have your cake and eat it too. But I don't know. It's just the whole principle of, I started out making these videos because I just wanted to do it for fun and not making money. And I guess I didn't want there to be any indication that I didn't want for there to be anything that would cause my motivation to change, because I'm a little afraid, I guess, that if I did start making money off of my videos, even if it did go back towards the channel for like better equipment and stuff like that, then that would turn into more of a factor as to the motivation behind my videos, and I just don't want that to happen. I guess I'm lucky enough such that I have a secure enough job where money for me is not a big issue, so I can still upgrade when I want to. Like, I'm just one of the, I guess, lucky ones who's able to do that, and therefore, because I don't really have the need to monetize my videos, I don't do it. If I were ever to monetize my videos, I would probably donate it to charity, every single one. I would not keep it for myself, not even for my channel. Because again, like I said, I can do stuff for my channel whenever I want to. But if I were, I would rather just donate it to charity instead and not keep a cent of it. But that, again, that's just a personal principle choice of mine.
Mm-hmm. You don't run into copyright stuff too much either, given that you're not monetizing. You can just keep playing whatever games you want.
When actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because when recently, like few months ago, a lot of Let's Players were getting hit by copyrights left and right because of something new to the YouTube, I guess, copyright system, and several people had asked me if I was dinged at all by that, and no, nothing. I got nothing. So, I mean, that's another perk. That wasn't the motivation or the reasoning behind my choice of not monetizing, but it ended up at least saving me some of the headache during that time. So.
Well, good. I mean, I'm mostly being new to it. I'm interested. I was always apprehensive about Let's Plays because I thought, wow, that's so lazy. Like, I spend hours writing a script and editing my video down to the absolute, what is the minimum they need to hear, and how do I add graphics to it. And I was always said, well, why would I want to watch someone play it when I could just play it? But then there's games have come out and Let's Plays that have come out that I would probably not play that game, but I really enjoy watching him play it because he gets really excited about it. Or I'm just not going to buy that game. Or I especially have grown to really enjoy the speedrunning Let's Plays. Seeing the game done at the pinnacle of skill. That is, I tune in every whatever their fundraiser thing is on
Yes.
Twitch, and that's just fascinating.
Though it's so funny how the tricks that those people come up with when, they find little bugs
Mhm.
in the games that they exploit, that I'm sure the developers had no intention of being used in that way. I just think is really amazing, and I agree with you. I only just recently started more seriously watching the speed run throughs, and I don't think I would end up doing anything like that, just because um, I'm not. If anyone who watches my videos know I'm not necessarily the most skilled player in the world. My strengths are more with story, and when you're speed running through a game,
Mm.
story tends to not
You,
story tends to slow down a speed run.
yeah.
So, but I'm always very impressed by the people who are able to manipulate the video games in such a way that allows them to be able to race their way through a game.
I keep praying. Whenever I see it, I sincerely, deeply hope that when they're speedrunning a game that I've played through, that the first time they went through it, they actually did it slowly with the whole story and really
Yes,
got the whole experience, and then went back and did it.
I hope. Yes,
It'd be a pain to see someone like, I need to speedrun a game. Well, Chrono Trigger's popular. Let's speedrun that, and then just like go through it the first time as fast as possible. No, and you're missing out on all this stuff.
I can't imagine speedrunning. I'm sure they must exist, but I can't imagine speedrunning an RPG. Like,
They do exist. They take a long
I'm sure,
time.
I'm sure they do, and so, wow, that's a lot. Because and that's even more dedication, because I've seen speedruns of rather lengthy games like Super Metroid, for example. I just saw Game Informer actually did a huge report on a bunch of videos talking about speedrunning Super Metroid, and that takes a good. Normally, I think for a normal person, when you first play the game, it takes about 20 some hours to beat, and a speedrun is like 3 hours or so. But with an RPG, like, I can't even. I mean, that's a lot of the sheer amount of, the thinking through what's the fastest way I can get through this scene. Like the number of times you have to do that in an RPG versus in Super Metroid. I can't
Yeah.
even. More power to them if they have the patience to do that.
It's insane. The fact that I've seen some Let's Play of Chrono Trigger specifically, I saw it for the first time in the last big marathon. Like
Yeah.
their record was 5 hours 47 minutes. How many times have they
Wow.
gone through this game over and over up to that point? I can see Super Mario World's an hour 40
Yes.
minutes or something. I could do that a
Right.
few times. But you hear the goals crying like 80 trillion times as you keep trying to maximize your.
Yeah.
Not for
No,
me.
I wouldn't have no patience. I wouldn't be able to do that. So,
Well, thanks for letting me ask you the questions about Let's Playing and sort of discovering new things and learning more about it. It's really important for me to always be able to turn to people who are doing well at something and ask them, "How are you doing well?"
well, I never pretend to be an expert. I've only been doing this for 2 years, but I'm flattered that you trust me enough to ask me these questions.
Sure.
So,
It's not necessarily about experience. It's also about the character of the person, that they're
well, thank
willing
you.
to be upright. And having played Hearthstone with you enough, I understand that you are, a good sport about things and aren't willing,
Thank you.
needing to win every time and get mad when you lose and that sort of
Of
stuff.
course, yes.
That kind of thing stands out too.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Andrew.
Yes. I think my thoughts have
So,
run dry for the moment.
okay, great. Well, do you mind if I ask you a few questions before you close, Andrew? Do you
Sure.
have some time?
Yeah, we have 40 more minutes if you like.
Sure. Andrew, I guess what I wanted to ask you is, um, what exactly led you to starting your channel? I guess what is the history? I've always wondered what the history was behind that, or was there somebody that inspired you, or was this sort of your own original idea that came to mind?
Well, the first started it, did anything at all with YouTube was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I had just entered into student teaching, and I wanted to create a daily sort of diary of my experiences in student teaching, so I could go back and look at it. Andrew's day one of 5th grade, and then go back and see what did I learn from those. And I started doing that, and I was just getting into voice acting at the time. So I started doing read-alouds on the channel, and those came before anything else. And I thought, well, this would be a good way to practice, and I could have it on YouTube so that if when I go to school, I can share this with students, and then they can listen to it at home, or I could play it in class, and I won't have to carry around the file with me. But so the D&D stuff didn't come until much later. The channel didn't start at all with that intention. I picked the name DawnforgedCast because Dawnforge is a character name that I use a lot in sort of the online persona name, and then cast from broadcast, so Dawnforged broadcasting stuff.
Gotcha.
And it turned into a D&D channel or a role-playing games channel much later on when I started recording our sessions. And I thought, well, this would be neat. So many people have misconceptions about what tabletop gaming is. I'd like to actually show them what it's like. And so you get the Monday Night Gaming episode 1, where I've got this really crappy camera and I'm holding it around the table and getting some of the session. And I was just doing that for a while, and then the questions started coming in. The questions of, what's your favorite class? Or how do you play? And then as I'm answering those questions, I get more questions. And I think, if they're just going to keep asking me all these questions, then I should just answer them instead of individually typing to the comments. Just make videos, in which case people can go watch them, and then they can start seeing, oh, this is how you play. And I had no thought in my mind about an audience or making any money off of it or anything like that. It was just, this is what I enjoy doing this. It's very little effort for me to record our sessions, but then it became a big effort to answer all the questions about it. So started making videos, sharing that, and the response is good and continues to grow. And I sort of drop off doing the read alouds for the most part, because those are even more time intensive to do a really good job of it. And I'm not someone who generally likes to do something poorly. Sometimes I'm okay with poor quality, but not when I'm reading some of my favorite books. So they have to have the good treatment. So it actually grew to a point where I saw that I could even do this full time. At least I saw that on the horizon. I saw, wow, I could spend my full time making videos for people, helping them get into this hobby. I could run games for viewers. I could run my own things. And this could be just this really great way to bring people to this hobby I love and be able to do it full time. So I monetized, started doing that stuff. It didn't work out exactly. There was apparently a big backlash against the idea that someone should make money off of YouTube. They really didn't like that. So some certain curmudgeons back in the day. And I got into a place where I really wanted it to succeed. And so, because I was sort of desperate, like, you have these dreams in front of you, full-time gamer, and you want it. And you think, the audience benefits, I benefit, win-win, who would hate that? Well, enough people hated it that it's sort of that main thrust derailed, and so I went back to what it basically has become today. And it's interesting that when there was a lot of backlash against it, I had about 3,000 subscribers. Now I have 14,000. So there's 11,000 more showed up post the drama or the encounters about it. And so it's continued to grow. So it may be revisited. The making this more of an option to work on. But right now I'm very, very happy with my teaching job. I'm married, so I've got to think about that more than when I was single, and well, not single, but just dating. Being able to just loaf around at home and make videos all the time.
And I I was gonna say, I have to say, Andrew, I'm definitely enjoying the series of your wife talking about her experiences
Mhm.
with gaming. I'm definitely looking forward to more of that
I got to get
as
her
well.
more. We spent some time just yesterday or the day before.
Hmm.
If you see the background, that wasn't there 2 days ago. She's gotten into. She said, "You need a better background," and so we got all these posters and
Hmm.
all my favorite sort of games, and changed the office all around. I got the light over there, the microphones here, so it should be much easier to make these other videos. I wanted to make it a
Right.
really easy process. I had a green screen before, and it was all about getting the lighting right and the sound all quiet. And
Hmm.
so since that time, I've been taking the monetized money and getting new gear so that it can be easier to make videos. And so hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more
That'd be great.
because our time is limited to be able to. It's easier to make a video. So the quality's still good, but I can make it more quickly, and so hopefully you'll be seeing more of Rachel and some other people coming on.
Good. Gotcha. Uh, what exactly can you share with us, Andrew? What has been the most challenging thing for you in DMing or even playing, like from the DM point of view or from the playing point of view? What's been the toughest challenge for you?
Mm. It would probably be humility, uh,
Okay.
acquiring it and getting it. Um,
Okay.
and so for a long time, I get asked a lot of questions about how can I do this. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, from a DM's point, when I'm DMing, I don't have a lot of problems. I manage my table like I manage my classroom, and
Yeah.
it's very
Mm-hmm.
clear the sort of rules that are accepted here, and I pick my players very carefully,
Yeah.
such that everyone's
Yeah.
got the similar idea. It took me a
Yeah.
long time, and the biggest struggle I had was that discernment, that knowing how important the players' interactions with each other are, their personalities and temperaments, much
Right.
more than how do I make, how do I design a city map and how do I do this rule
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff. How do I come up with good stories? That's from years of RPGing and reading sci-fi and fantasy. That stuff to
Yeah.
me is not hard. But the biggest challenge always came in with dealing with human beings and their wills and their desire
Yes.
to. For the longest time, so many people I played with, it was they show up to have fun, to get their own fun, and they don't show
Right.
up to work with other people to have fun. And once I understood that way of approaching things, I became a different DM and a different person. And both are designed, when I'm running a game, it's to facilitate the players. It's to make them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there to run my story and my cool NPCs. I'm there to set the stage and let the players come forth and go in there, and
Exactly.
I help them not run into each other, and I help them
Right.
uh, feel a sense of challenge and accomplishment. And when they leave the table, my goal is always, wow, it was a great time. And I don't even want them to think, if anyone says, Andrew, you were a great DM, I'm discouraged because that means they were remembering that I was a DM during the game. Instead, I want them
Mm.
to leave the table with the story and the actions of the characters in their minds
That's
as vivid and realistic as possible. They don't even think that the game was going on.
yeah.
This is a kind of thing that took me a long time to learn.
That's interesting.
An aspect in church, reading the epistle. And so in our church, we have people who come up and read the different parts of the Bible. And
Yeah.
for the longest time, I was always, well, I've got a great voice, and thus saith the Lord. And I'd get all dramatic about it. And I thought, wow, I am reading it so well. And then my dad, who's a priest, he reminds me, the goal is that they're just hearing the words, that you're totally out of it. Your job is to be as little you as possible, so
Mm-hmm.
that the essence of the thing is what connects them and not your skill.
Mm-hmm.
So as a DM, that's kind of what I focus on. And my challenge as a player became maintaining my my character while also sort of being second DM and sort of
Okay.
not telling the DM what to do, but encouraging other players to role play by talking with them and getting things back on track,
Yeah.
realizing how hard it is for them, doing things to make their job easier while also still being a good character.
It's funny you mention that because I find myself in similar situations because I think both of us have had so much experience as a DM or GM. When you finally do go back to being a player, do you find it a little challenging to, to back off enough that you're not, I guess, imposing your DM DMness during the table when somebody else is supposed to be the DM?
Right. There was a point where that was hard, especially getting frustrated with why isn't he? I'm okay with helping the rules out and when he asks, but I really, as a player, I feel more upset and bad that other players aren't having a good time because of how the DM is running it, as opposed to my own need to run it. So when, for example, I won't get into specifics, but we played a session recently where I wasn't the DM, and one of the players left the table feeling, I really just don't want to play anymore. And that, to me, hurt me because I love this hobby and I think it's really amazing. And the fact that they had a bad experience in the hobby because I wasn't in the DM's chair, at least that's how I took it. Like, well, if I was DMing, you would have had a good time, kind of thing. And so you end up stuck in the DM role, even though you want to play a character sometime, because it's hard to find someone who is up to the standards. You're a lot more forgiving because you understand how hard it is, but then your standards are high when you get there.
I had a very good friend who was in the second campaign that I ever ran, and he was a phenomenal player. Very engaging character. Great comic relief character, actually, which isn't always easy to do. It might seem easy, but it's not. And he wanted to try. I kept telling him, you should DM, you should try it, because I think you'd be really good. And he unfortunately had some bad luck with the players he ended up choosing. I wasn't present, but from what I was told, he had one session, and there was a couple players that made things a little challenging for him as a first-time DM, and it turned him off from DMing past that one session. He was initially going to do a whole campaign, and I guess the experiences was just horrible for him as a DM that he has not since then. It's been 7 years. He has not since then tried running a game, but I'm just going to try to encourage him a little bit more.
That's unfortunate. That people ask the biggest, other than perhaps some rules, what I get asked the most is, this player at my table does this. How do I handle that? And it's unfortunate that our hobby has this. It's ironic too, because by socializing with others, we improve our ability to talk and speak and understand each other. And D&D is a social game. But who is attracted to D&D are antisocial, kind of hide and delve into fantasy people. And so when they get to the table, so frequently there's so many players that just have a hard time interacting with other people. And it's really strange. I think, well, it's fantasy. I'm playing a sword guy killing orcs and casting fireballs. I do that at home on my computer. I can do that here. I read all about those things. But it's not. It's not a video game. It's a social game. And having to deal with, I phrase it, deal with problem players is something that I've eventually just decided as a DM to get really strict and harsh on, because I feel my responsibility is that all 5 or 6 or whatever of my players have a good time. And if one of them's getting in the way of that, it's my duty to say, you need to change or you're gone. In a nice way, if I can. And I no longer feel beholden to, as I was in high school, the kid with the car who was a horrible role player, but he had a car. And so I didn't have a car, and so he got to come to every game. Or the DM's girlfriend who's really bad at playing, but he likes her, so she gets to come. I don't have that problem. If you don't want to play, you leave, and if you suck, I help you, and then if you keep doing horrible things,
Right.
then you get kicked out. It's nice having that authority now.
Having said that, you're describing. I mean, it's essentially a stereotype, but it's a stereotype that I think a lot of tabletop gamers, do fall in. Not all. Of the being a little bit shy or antisocial or other traits of that nature. Do you find that sort of stereotype happens more often in tabletop gaming or in video gaming, or do you think they're about the same?
I think it's hard to tell. I think certainly what video games offer is a shield. So I guess we're talking about social online games like
Sure.
MMOs, socializing
Sure.
being those, because
They're probably the closest, yeah.
right, they don't have they have their avatar separating the real them from, and they can be the great hero of the alliance, and they're this big strapping human who's
Right.
strong and tough, when them in real life, most likely, and I for a long time had it, a really poor self-image, because you get picked on by people in middle and high school before your growth spurt, before because you spend time indoors, you get white or whatever, pasty, that sort of thing, that they retain, except for I'm sure you don't get white and pasty too much. Natural tan, that helps.
It's there we go.
But the idea that you can be behind a screen and have anonymity really attracts a lot of people, and then they try and do that jump, and they don't. They're being used to playing video games and getting it their way.
Yes.
They don't have to share. They don't have to compromise. They get what they want, or they get kicked out of the guild if, say, they're raiding and they need loot. And so we're used to, there's generational things that people are used to getting what they want, and they come in. You see this rampantly on other games like League of Legends or something. The community is just the community is fine. The players are just atrocious because they blame everyone for every failing, and if they don't get what they want, they throw a fit. The same people who from video games, they come to the table, and not everyone, as you say. Certainly, it's not everyone who plays, but they come with the problem players come with that idea that that either I get my way because they're used to getting their way, or well, I can do anything I want, let me do the stupid thing I can think of, and they don't see it as my actions have consequences, and the consequences are the people around me, immediately around me.
Yes
There's no screen, there's no filter, there's no time delay. There's no other guild I can just quit so easily and go and join.
Right.
The real problems come in not understanding the needs of people and being more compassionate and maybe a bit communistic. They were the king of their own monarchy before, where what they said goes. Now they're entering a commune where everyone has to share equally for this to be a good situation, and it's hard, especially for some people who they see fantasy sometimes as a retreat, as an escape from not being the person who they are, because they don't like themselves, because they've been told so much that they're this way, and they just don't know how to have that experience. So DMs have to be patient, of course, nurturing to see, but at some point, the 4 hours a week, every week, can no longer be dragged down too much by that.
I with what you were saying, it just made me think that the anonymity, if that's an actual word.
I think it is.
You're a teacher. You can tell me if that's an actual word or not.
Fourth grade though, so we might not cover that.
We haven't gotten to that yet. Yeah. But I mean, I think that's a double-edged sword, because I know situations where there are female gamers, for example, who have hulking male avatars, and they feel that they are treated very differently when they are playing those avatars in a video game versus if they play like a more petite female character. And male players who all of a sudden get into situations that they're not used to, where you have these characters that are hitting on them when they're playing this really beautiful female character, and all of a sudden all these random people are, kind of being a little inappropriate with them. And so whereas in D&D, like you said, that mask or that shield just isn't there. Do you think that do you find that makes it a very good draw for people? The tabletop gaming makes it a good draw for people because it sort of forces them into coming out of their shell, or do you think that might steer them away a little bit because they have to keep their guard down, I guess?
I think there are two types of gamers, and therefore two types, sort of correlating with two types of people. Mm-hmm. And the first type of person is someone who doesn't know but think they know. And then the other kind of person is the person who knows that they don't know. And gotcha. When you get into gaming and tabletop gaming, you have the people coming in who, as people, just as not as gamers, but as people, still feel that the world either revolves around them or they are owed something by the world, and that their way is the most important way. And when they go into gaming, those are the people who min-max their character, munchkinize their character. They're the guy who on the Dead Ale Wives Society says, if there are any girls there, I want to do them. That's that character is that person. And the other person who realizes that life is not about them, but about relationships with other people, when they've reached that realization as a person, they can approach tabletop gaming in a dramatically different way, such that in depths that they never came to before, it becomes more about, it's still a game, and you realize the separation between reality and fantasy, but it becomes much more deep of a human experience. Yeah. When you realize that we're doing this together, and that your willingness to bend your own desires comes out in relationships and romantic relationships. I've heard it described, and I like to share that it's like two pitchers of water, the two people that are pouring into each other, constantly filling one another. You have to empty yourself, but if everyone's emptying themselves, everyone is getting full of fresh, moving water, life and energy. And I like that. And if one person's just pouring into the other person, they get empty, this gets over full, and this water stagnates. If no one's pouring into each other, the water stagnates. And so you have to be able and understand and have everyone else willing to be giving. If everyone gives, everyone gets. If everyone keeps their energies and their efforts, then no one gets, and what you have gets smaller and smaller and less fulfilling. So really entering in different stages of life and different perception, that has to happen. And I could even tell you about situations when someone tells me a situation, I could probably say and pinpoint pretty accurately how old that person is. There are exceptions, of course, but there are phases in life where that sort of mentality is still pervasive. I don't know what it is. For me, it was basically an engagement to someone to be married crashing atrociously, and me having to face every pain in life. It was out of that situation that I started to understand this better. And some people, that happens and they get more bitter and they're more selfish. Like, this is what I did when I opened myself up. I got hurt so bad, so I'm going to close myself off forever. Or they just never have that hardship, especially in our country, where the hardships aren't as ready to come by as other places, that they don't make that step in that growth and to understand other people and understand themselves enough.
I really like that, Andrew, and I think one thing that I'm really getting out of my conversation with you that has been a little bit of an epiphany is I think that gamers, especially those who play MMORPGs, I think should be encouraged to try tabletop gaming because of the things that you were saying, because there is a level of etiquette that you have to learn when you're playing RPG games, whether it be pen and paper or video games. And I think it's easier for you to understand that etiquette more when you're in a situation around the table in a pen and paper game, because you are far more accountable of your actions. This is an ongoing theme. When you're in a pen and paper situation, that you're not as accountable in behind, the video game persona that you are. And yeah, I think that that is another thing that you can gain from trying pen and paper games if you haven't done it already, but you're a big video gamer, is I think it helps you become aware of I guess that etiquette, that accountability, which hopefully will then translate to your video gaming when you are in an MMORPG situation.
Well, let's go beyond that. It'll translate to the rest of your life.
That's true.
When you start
yes.
learning how to work with other people in a tabletop gaming setting, when your character, which is at least partly you, is encountering characters dramatically different, own point of view and your own lifestyle, you learn, if you're open to it, you learn how to interact and work with them. And I'm a dwarf who hates orcs, and this guy's an orc, and we're both in the party, and we have like these conflicts. But through these conflicts, we come to discover we're really similar in a lot of ways, and this friendship grows. How can that same person who's had that experience in this realm, therefore then go and be racist towards someone else and prejudiced towards them? And this applies to everything. This is a microcosm, at least in spirit, of every other interaction and relationship you have in your life, and the way you learn to treat other people with decency, with respect. You don't have to agree with them, but you need to be cooperative with them.
Yeah.
That practicing that 4 hours a week, every week you are practicing being tolerant. Look at the changes it's going to have in the rest of your life too.
Right. I think you're absolutely right, and I think another practical thing that you get from role-playing, especially in tabletop gaming, is it allows you to really practice putting yourself in other people's shoes.
Absolutely.
Because you kind of have to do that when you form this character, and you're forced to think about why does this character do the things that they do? Why do they behave the way they behave? What is the thought processes behind the decisions that they make, which is a lot of the things that I verbally talk about in my Let's Plays. And I, now just listening to you talk about that, I realize that it probably does help you become more of an empathic person. It helps, if you're in a conflict with somebody else, I think the skills that you can gain from role-playing is the ability to really make you stop and think where the other person is coming from. Why do they behave or think the way that they do? And I think that again, it will help provide you with a more social, a better arsenal of skills in your social interactions with people overall.
It's a beautifully ironic thing that people say that gaming creates antisocial people.
Yes.
When in fact, tabletop gaming will make you a better social person, to better understand and interact with others than many other situations in life will. Even working on a team in sports helps you interact with others, absolutely. But you do not have to, you did not necessarily choose that team. You were put on that team with other people. And you did not have to really challenge yourself in most situations to think in a different frame of mind, or if you're not thinking in a different frame of mind, work with someone who thinks in a different frame of mind from you. It's a character building exercise, literally and figuratively, that you don't get in a lot of other places. This is why I get really passionate about it. It's transformative for humans. It can improve who you are as a human being.
Yeah.
We're also telling the human story, and we're growing ourselves as people by
Yeah.
playing these characters, by telling these stories.
Exactly.
I can't think of any. I like video games, I like reading, I like watching movies, I like doing all these things. But
Yeah.
there's no hobby or interest greater to me than the human experience. And there's few
Mm-hmm.
places I can encounter that while still being, I think, a little selfish and warmth and comfort than the tabletop gaming
Mm-hmm.
experience. It's the best thing to me there is for that. Other than
Yeah.
going to the streets of Dubai and handing
Yes.
out food yourself and experiencing it in person. I'm
Right.
not enough of a humanitarian to do that yet. But
Yeah.
at the least, I can love these characters and these people, or learn to love them
Yeah.
better.
Well, I mean, uh, going into this discussion, I mean, I already had a big passion and appreciation for tabletop gaming in general, but now that we're actually, talking in great lengths about, the effects that you can have on a person personally on a day-to-day basis outside of gaming, it definitely has enriched my appreciation of it as well, of the craft and of the gaming style as well. So
Let me add a caveat that there is a danger here of you going and nurturing and fostering another approach to people, and that being a
hmm
selfish and hateful one.
hmm
It's about what you plug into the formula. It's about what the recipe calls for. If you change out
hmm
some ingredients,
hmm
it's going to be poisonous too. This is why I think there is so much backlash and danger. Now,
hmm
95% of gamers aren't like this, but there is some danger that if you're a person who the membrane of outside and inside is very thin, that you have a hard time
hmm
distinguishing the realities or separating yourself from
yeah,
your
yeah,
thoughts. This can be hard for you, and don't go into it with just any old game master. You need to have someone who's got experience and is trustworthy and really is there with a good heart to share and help you have an enjoyable time, and is not there to promote some other agenda, because you could run in afoul of such people too.
yeah.
Not to end on a downer note, but just don't just rush off to anything like, oh, gaming's gonna make me a better
Yeah.
person. I'll just go, probably, but
I think I have one more question for you, Andrew. And that is, since I think you were asking me most questions about tabletop gaming, I wanted to ask you more of a video game related question, and that is, uh, if you were to start doing more Let's Plays on your channel, uh, I've already answered this question, but how would you select the games that you play, that you would LP? What would be your strategy in picking a game?
uh, I think one of the problems I run into is the one of the advantages of Let's Playing blind is you get the authentic initial reaction to things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the disadvantages to doing it is the game may suck, or you may it just may be something that brings out poor things in you, or may not be the
Okay.
best use of your time. And so
Yes.
likely my choices would come from recommendations, but most likely what I would choose is would be games that I've already played and that
Okay.
I really had an amazing experience doing. So
Okay.
most of the anything I'd Let's Play would probably be Super Nintendo or PlayStation RPGs. And to
Okay.
go through that again, yeah, it'd have to be a second or third time through so that I could better set it up for other people encountering it. Uh, I'm open. Like the Shadow One Run game I'm playing now is totally blind, and I don't know what's happening there. So that's got an appeal too, but it definitely have to be games that have elements of story and choice, so that if you're just watching me kind of click
Yeah.
some buttons and my
I
buttons
agree.
further a story on that I have nothing to do with, well, that's not so interesting to me. So they'd be RPGs or have some element of story and choices in there so that my Let's Play would be different than your Let's Play, not just because we're different commentators, but because
Hmm.
the choices we made have different outcomes on the game.
Exactly.
That,
And I
yeah,
think, go ahead, go ahead.
that would be my main criteria. That's what I was going to say.
And I think that I think both of us are very insightful and analytical people. I mean, you being a teacher, you kind of have to be. And I think that a lot of, what would be really interesting, at least I think would be really interesting in watching you, is to find out if you're willing to share what your personal thought processes are in making the decision that you make, and how that relates to the vision that you have in your character and your character's personality. Because I think as a storyteller, that's something that you would excel very well in, and I think a lot of people would find really interesting and entertained by. So
I had that intention. One of the other aspects I'd have to incorporate is I started playing Baldur's Gate 1, which is a older RPG for the computer, and I remember it fondly. And it's got a lot of, it's sort of D&D system based, and I could role play the character because you get to make your own character.
right,
Some choices in the dialogue, and so I'd put on a
yeah,
voice, and I recorded 1 or 2 episodes of this of me
yeah,
walking around and in a character voice, giving my sort of internal dialogue and making up my
yeah,
own lines for the character. One of the what I found though I ran into with that was the system and the programming of the game was old and crappy, and so it got in the way of the mechanics of the game, and the coding of the game got in the way of me being able to tell the story that I was wanting
okay,
to tell. Like it bugged out and I couldn't finish a quest,
oh,
and then the clicking around was
yeah,
slow and that sort of stuff. So it needed to also be good mechanically,
gotcha.
enough mechanically well that I could do what I wanted with the story and the telling the thought processes too.
Well, I definitely hope that. I would like to think that many of your viewers would be able to provide you with some great candidates for Let's Playing,
Mm-hmm.
having heard what you're saying. So, all of you out there, like, if you want to see DawnforgedCast do more Let's Plays,
To help him.
definitely help him out. Send him some suggestions. I'm very excited to see, what kind of things he can put out there on that specific front. So. All right, Andrew, unless there's anything else that you wanted to ask me or talk about before we close.
There are a few more things, but I smell the aroma of bacon wafting out of the kitchen towards my bedroom. My wife is making something
Oh,
that smells good.
if only we all were so lucky.
I had to have a bacon maker. This is
Oh.
what this means, is I have someone to make me bacon.
Oh, gosh.
That's what
right.
I've earned. No, let's do this again some other time. Perhaps
Yeah.
also, I find it helpful. This was good. Of course, this was great. Maybe we'll play some Hearthstone or something and then talk
That
not
would be
about
great.
Hearthstone, but have as sort of a,
Yeah.
as things pop up, you're like, oh, that reminds me of. I find that helpful. That's why,
Yeah.
like, you have dinner conversations over food.
Exactly.
You have these little breaks and pauses, and so that would be
Yeah.
great. But thank you very much for having me on and letting me
Oh, yeah,
pick
absolutely.
your brain and share the thoughts about the hobby I just really adore, and learning more about how you work and your approach to things, which helps mine.
Yeah, Andrew, again, I'm going to have to say the same thing back at you. Thank you so much for your time and for, not only all the support you're giving me now, but everything that you've given to me all this entire time since I've known you. My favorite part of this whole exercise was definitely getting to know you better, as someone that I've always had a lot of esteem and respect for. And so, yeah, I definitely hope that we can do this again some other time. And for those of you out there who haven't checked out his channel yet, please, 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 if you're at all interested in tabletop gaming, I'll put a link to DawnforgedCast's URL below so that you can check him out. I would highly, highly, highly recommend him. He has I think you said 14,000 subscribers by now, 11,000 something.
14.
Yes.
We got that last week.
He's got 14,000 subscribers plus, and I personally think he deserves every single one of those. And I can't honestly say that for every single person on YouTube that has nearly as many. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. And until next time, happy gaming. Or wait, that's your line.
You can do that. I'll do yours.
Okay. Happy gaming, everyone.
Make sure to love yourselves and love each other.